Welcome back to the Green Couch.
Green Couch. Okay, we're back. It feels like we've been away for a while. I guess it's been a couple months. But we're back on the Green Couch.
Yeah, we are back on the Green Couch, you guys. Thank you so much for everyone that has subscribed and has been watching our videos.
Yes, thank you. It's surprising. It's still surprising to me.
I know. No, we usually wake up every day, and we start having these discussions. And this is why we don't really know where to start, because usually we're just used to having, when you with your partner and y'all talk.
Yes.
You talk about everything. And we came across this really, really dope topic of intersectionality. It's
something that was introduced to me in college in my anthropology courses. So it's been a while since I've had a discussion about it. God, I don't know why my voice just did that. That was weird.
Oh, that's a hell of a weird sound. I never made that before.
Yeah. I didn't notice it.
Okay, but yeah, so intersectionality. We're discussing it from
our point of view
and how we understand it. So if we get things wrong and anybody does have a better understanding of it, please comment. Please join the conversation.
Share.
Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, if I'm saying her name or saying your name wrong, please correct us. It's not like she invented it. It's not a thing that got invented.
She brought it out.
Yeah,
she pulled it out,
and she came
to the forefront.
And she came up with the term to describe what it is. It started out as a way of looking at discrimination towards Black women in specific, and then it's really just branched out the way that life is.
Yeah.
It's an analytical framework for understanding how aspects of someone's political and social identities combine together to create different modes of discrimination and privilege.
What does that mean? I feel like it means basically we all have our own privileges and we all suffer from inequality within each other and from each other. That's how I take it. That's how I hear it in my mind and in my head. And it's a pretty uncomfortable acknowledgement.
Acknowledging you want your own privilege.
Your own privilege, because I think once you actually understand what you're talking about, you're more conscious of your actions. And I'm still trying to understand intersectionality every day.
The concept that I was introduced to that taught it to me, which I think is the best, and we are gonna put our own up, is called the power flower.
I'm
gonna stay fitting to that because that's how it was introduced to me. So yes, it's gonna be a nice little flower. We'll put it up
somewhere over here,
somewhere around us, and we'll explain it. So I broke it down into 8 petals.
Yeah.
And so if you can think about the petals, then you'll see those represent different sections of your identity, and then the inside of the flower. Let me get back into
Pa!
Are you saying pa?
Right.
You have your different petals, and those represent your different parts of your identity, and then the inside of the flower is you. So what you could also think of it as is like a pizza, and the different slices are different parts of your identity. The pizza as a whole is you. Let's see if I can break it down. So race, we know there's a lot of discrimination around race.
Right.
And someone like me with light skin operates in a realm of privilege. I operate, even though my father is Mexican, I got my mother's skin tone, so I operate with a lot of white privilege. My identity in race is what is called an unmarked identity, meaning when I walk around, people aren't like, oh, there's a black guy, or oh, there's a Mexican, or oh, there's an Asian person. It's just, oh, there's a guy walking down the street. You know, a lot of times. Now, sometimes depending on where I'm at, like it might be there's a white guy. So, you know, but for the most part, in our society, I walk around
as a man.
And then that's another one. I'm a cis man. I'm a hetero man. You know, so those things I don't have to operate. I operate in a realm of privilege and unmarked identity. It's not weird to see me walking down the street with a woman. It might be weird to see me walking down the street with a black woman for some people, because that's the thing that we get, and then it goes into the intersectionality. But I don't get looked at. We don't get looked at for kissing because we're a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. That would be another level to that, you know. And then we are both cis. So as a black woman, you walk around as a marked identity. That's how, you know, that's what marked is. So it's like, that's where the modes of privilege and discrimination start playing. So it's I think people want to think of it as like a ladder of privilege and discrimination, when really it's more of like a scatter plot. And
exactly, that's what it feels like to me, like a spider web. Opposed to a power flower, it was, as we were discussing it earlier, I felt like a spider web, because you are interconnected to everyone, you know, in this way, especially the way that Kimberly, or I'm just gonna say Kimberly, Dr. Crenshaw, yes, exactly, respect. But I felt like a spider web because of how we are all connected, and the thoughtfulness and the mindfulness behind thinking of our identity in a way where it was respecting someone as an individual, was how I broke it down.
Okay, so now that our educational part of it is out of the way.
Are we recording?
Yes, yeah. We'll deal with that in post. Okay, so I created a power flower from some of the identities. Now, this isn't, I feel like a power flower could be broken down into so many complex things, you know, from your socioeconomic status. That's where, like,
sexuality, religion.
I think a lot of, like, this is where, like, a lot of white people get tripped up on when they hear the word white privilege, because there's a lot of impoverished white people.
Right.
So they hear privilege and they think money.
Yeah.
And that's not what people are talking about. It's talking about that marked versus unmarked identity. Right. Now, being an impoverished individual, like being homeless or like driving around in an old car with a cracked windshield, things like that we apply to poverty. Now, again, you're a marked identity.
Because just with race, it's broken down with race. Your ability, like, have you thought about like that?
That one,
yes.
When that got called, I think that was the first time, so going into this power flower being introduced to me and someone being like, ability. And I was like, what do you mean ability? Like, can I throw a football or something? Like, you know, what?
What are you talking about?
And they're like, yeah, like, you don't know what, like, I don't know what it's like to have to operate with a wheelchair.
Right.
I don't know what it's like, you know, I can walk through doors and over stuff that, like, or like, see, like, you know, vision.
Right.
Hearing.
Can you help me across the street? Moments like that.
Sensory issues, like, and I used to be really, really, really ableist, you know, like,
right.
And just like that being called out on me was like, oh, that's a great trend. It's not a bad thing, because it's not like you're a bad person.
Once you acknowledge it, it's just finding the confidence and the courage to change. You know, like, they got us on these levels, and that's the thing. Like, we got so much power.
But then it's so weird because we put it on levels too. You know, like,
because
and that's
it's learned.
That's why there were quite a bit of men of color that supported Trump. because although they might not be white men, they were heterosexual men, and they benefited from the privileges that he was handing out towards heterosexual men. We can like, and that's what's weird is like people will find these like a barnacle, or like, you know, it like attaches itself to this whale, or like we attach ourselves to these whales of privilege, even though we sometimes operate more in the discrimination area, but because we can latch onto one privilege, we take that. That's what The Color Purple is about. Like that's exactly what that movie was about, is that although it's an oppressed community, there's a section of privilege that a certain part of them can grab onto and use. Yep.
But we have to understand our power is in our character, because then we will know how to treat each other.
Okay, she woke up, so she's here with us.
Amelia, everybody, Amelia. What happened? What happened? You don't want to be on camera?
Tomorrow for sure. Eventually.
So it's totally not a different day, and we are not in completely different outfits.
And there's not a completely different candle
or anything like that. We'll deal with that in post. But let's see if we can get back on track.
Hey.
Yeah, it's, you know, I guess understanding intersectionality for me, when I started learning about it, the best thing to come out of it was really the checking of my privileges. And a full, I guess, like start of that, because that's not a one and done thing. That's a every day. We have to be conscious of how we think. You have to be conscious of what you say, how you act, all of those things, and you're constantly having to check yourself and check your privileges, and that's everybody. If you figure out, you know, and that is what's cool about doing a power flower. Like I said, we're gonna put it up. I will share a link, or you can screenshot it, or you can kind of just jot it down and do your own, and I guess it'll maybe give an understanding. Like I said, I think this is better for more privileged people, because people who are in their privilege live a life of unmarked identity. So their privilege isn't constantly being called out, whereas people who are more marginalized lived a marked existence, and it's constantly like, you know, told to them, you're in a marginalized position in society. A power flower will probably give you some things to check, you know, like I said, being able-bodied. That was not something that I thought of as, you know, a discriminatory thing that I did. But I was very ableist in like thoughts, like my statements, you know, like, so.
Especially with the parking lot. You know, everybody, you get that and come. You want one of those.
Exactly.
But no, they it's not even like they. Sometimes I hate saying it like
I know, right? Like
they,
those different types of people. It's like we're all people, and that's what's cool about intersectionality too, because you can look at someone and be like, "Man, we're so different." Like my parents. My dad was born speaking Spanish.
And this is me as baby. I look just like my mom.
You know, he was a Mexican American kid in southern Arizona, right on the border. Grew up in Tucson. Then my mother is like, you know, you could say maybe an opposite, or like completely different, in that she was born in New England. Her father's family was mildly affluent, although she didn't. Their family that she felt, or that she lived with, didn't really feel that. And that's where my parents' intersectionality came, because they did have similar experiences with, you know, summers of homelessness, where you know, my mother had to live in a campground and my dad had to live in a motel, you know, and that intersection, that was something that they clicked on, and that they understood about each other. So we look at people so skin deep, so face value.
We do.
Once you break it down, you realize, oh wow, these people, this one person who I thought I had a lot in common with, I really don't have anything in common with them besides my skin tone or my ethnicity or something like that. But this person that I thought I didn't have anything in common with, I'm actually like really cool with, you know, and we click on our shared experiences. So.
That goes right into like me looking at that interview with Roger Kelly, and I forget the gentleman's name, but he befriended a higher rank in the Ku
He was like a
Klux
grand
Klan.
wizard or something like that.
Wizard. That's cool that they found common interests within each other, whether they agreed and didn't agree. I felt like that was their intersectionality or intersection coming together, and then actually making a change. So you know.
But it is like, all right, can we find common ground too?
Right.
And that's a very, and you sound like me when you do that, because you know how I like extremes with examples, but that is a very extreme example of
and it seems
trying to figure out.
so impossible.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because people feel like when you're born into your environment, you become it, and that's you. This is me. I'm not changing for anybody. But that can be very sick, and it's twisted in our community, in my opinion. And I think this helps. Like, it opens the floor for communication. Let's accept it. You know what I'm saying? I'll be accountable on my part because of my privilege, and I will accept my grievance too with the pain that I've had to go through, and understand the importance and like the main messages for change.
Intersectionality, we can talk about it in so many different branching ways.
I love that.
Because you become marked and unmarked dependent on where you're at. So let's take like a pious Muslim person, you know, a woman, she wears a hijab, a burqa, you know, maybe a man wears a kufi. So you take those individuals and you put them in the United States, all of a sudden they're marked. They're super marked, especially after 9/11. You know, anybody that appears Muslim or like we've affiliated with Muslim, like Sikh individuals, now all of a sudden they're lumped in with Muslims. Now, go back to a country that is predominantly Muslim, and we're walking around, and you know, let's say that she isn't following the laws about covering and anything. Like, we are now marked individuals.
And we saw that with that video when that guy took his girlfriend to back to his country, and she had on some shorts that were like up to her knees, like, well, you know what I'm saying, knee length, almost like, you know, kind of like Bermuda. And they were going in on her. I mean, I think she had on a tank top, I want to say, but of course it's hot. But when I say they were disrespecting her, and I commend him so much because he was standing up for his babe. Like, he was, and it was almost documentary, I believe, because his father was against their marriage, but the mother was, you know, she was trying. Like, you can just see, and that is, you know, that in itself is pretty, like, you know, damn, you know, when you see someone genuinely happy, let's talk about the things that they have in common. Let's talk about the trauma that we all have in common, especially when we're blending families. Like,
for us personally, and I think any relationship you can apply this to, because like I said, you can see someone and you might think you guys are coming from, or y'all are coming from the same place.
Right.
But you're not, and then you might see someone and think you're coming from different places, and you actually have some shared experiences. But our relationship, like, we have had miscommunications, misunderstandings, arguments based around some of our identities, our individual identities, you know, which of course intersect into us fully, because we are everything that makes us up. And just kind of understanding that, and understanding that when we do have disagreements, that we come from different places, but it's not such a oil and water thing, you know. I think we're quick to that, where it's so like, oh, we're different, then we're never gonna get along, like, and then people on the outside, that's a whole another thing that, like, a relationship like ours has to deal with, is judgment from people on the outside who all they see is the differences. All they see is our complexion. I felt more at home with her because her family is Panamanian, and even though Mexico and Panama are completely different countries, have different cultures, we do have shared things. So it's
very much.
there's something that is deeper that I share with her. Along with like our sense of humor,
Right.
a lot of times the music that we like,
our religious views or spiritual views are the same. The differences were very challenging. Education was one. You know, I didn't further my education after high school. I knew what I wanted to do. I allowed fear to get in the way, and I didn't really push for what I really wanted. I basically was one of the kids that was trying to make, your parents happy. So when I'm in a relationship with someone that is educated, more than me, it's just a bit more intimidating, or it was, I should say, a bit more intimidating. Now I'm just accepting the fact that I'm learning,
We all are.
We all are learning, exactly, and not being intimidated by it, and not feeling less than what you are worth, or degrading yourself. I think there's a difference between admitting that something makes you uncomfortable and then actually being hateful towards someone. Like the something that makes you uncomfortable is maybe PDA, makes you uncomfortable
Of all types.
I don't even want to say all types, because I think it's just more so accepted and normalized in heterosexual beings like us. But being two men or two women kissing in a park, just showing affection, I think admitting it, saying that makes me uncomfortable, and knowing that say you are hateful about it, knowing that it comes from that, like, oh my God, I really hate that, and acknowledge that it's hate, and then acknowledge that what they're doing is none of your business.
That one.
Well, once you admit something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you get a better understanding of who your character is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you'll be like, why does it make me uncomfortable? And it is, like you said, is it really affecting my life?
Right.
Like, I think transgender is, because, a couple years ago, I would definitely say I wouldn't say when it first started, because watching Pose and everything, I'm like, I understand that transgender goes back in different cultures, millennia, but as far as in our culture, modern U.S. society, going back to Pose, realizing like, transgender, even though, we used to use slurs like transvestite or tranny, things like that. But once it started becoming more in the public eye, and it started, it was uncomfortable for me, because I think I don't know, it is. It's like when you admit your uncomfortability with it, it's like, okay, why am I uncomfortable with it? Like, what does that say about me?
Taking that moment to realize that it makes you uncomfortable. And that's the thing, I don't understand people's level of anger, because my thing has always been mind your business, right? I feel like my mother raised me on mind your business. Also very toxic traits, I'm veering off, but what goes on in this house stays in this house type stuff. So you just grow up on minding your business.
Yeah, eyebrows down.
Right, exactly, which is its own issue. But if you just recognize that, what they have going on and who they are, it's just simply being, and that has nothing to do with you. It's just as clear as that. We're marked because we're in an interracial relationship. What we got going on ain't got nothing to do with how your 98-year-old grandma broke it down to you, brother. That ain't got nothing to do with you. You can have your feelings. And that's another part of it, right? It's respecting each other on what we agree and what we don't agree upon. Look, you can have your feelings, but touch me if you want to.
Yeah, don't say anything. Don't look at me any type of way.
Right.
Because it doesn't affect you. What's going on over here doesn't affect you. So yeah, intersectionality. It's I think
don't do it.
Doing a power flower, I would say, is probably, if you're watching our channel and you watch this video, I would assume that you're into, like, you're into this idea. So I would say do a power flower. There's plenty online. There's tons of people who are trying to teach about privilege and marginalization in the different modes. You can find one. You can use ours. Mine's a simple 8-1. Just realizing who you are, because you're not one thing. You're a plethora of different identities, and that makes us beautifully unique. Even your siblings don't have the exact same identity as you.
Right.
They might be a different gender. Right. They might have a different sexual orientation. They're gonna be a different age.
Because could this be the reason why, like just this part that you're discussing, could this be the reason why this country really believes that this country is not racist? Could that be is this the issue?
I think this is parts of it.
You cannot move forward if you don't address
right. What's tying you back? If you don't cut those ties.
You just can't. What someone said, if you don't know who you are, you don't know where you're going.
If you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going.
Right, if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. Yeah, I think that's it. But where you came from is who you are.
Yeah.
And who you are is a lot of these intersections.
So yeah, again, if we didn't cover it well enough for someone who has a PhD, please comment. But yeah,
y'all, and let us know how you feel about this video. Like, comment, share.
Yes. Share.
Do you believe in life after love?
You don't trust us?
Yes.
Look it up.
Yes, constantly.
Yes.
Don't believe anything that anybody, especially on YouTube, tells you.
Don't believe the hype.
Right. Exactly.
Look it up yourself, and don't use websites that look like they were made yesterday. Use real websites that are actually fact-based, but they actually have sources and things like that.
We have so much more coming for you guys, so much more content. We have conversations almost every day that creates, video after video after video. So stay tuned, stay up. I think we got a name called Sun's Crew. For our community.
Now I'm gonna call our group
Yeah. You guys like our videos?
Alright, click some buttons. Whichever buttons work. The thumbs up, don't ever click the thumbs down. Never. Leave a comment, and then wherever the subscribe button is, and make sure that you click the bell. Also, do y'all like my inexplicable dad hat that I randomly just put on? So I hope you liked whatever video that was.
Yeah. Peace.
Later.